Okay, Lizzie, we're on.
Happiness runs in a circular motion. Life is like a little boat upon the sea. Everything is a part of everything anyway. You can be happy if you let yourself be. Well, happiness is many things.
It's of course one of those timeless questions, trying to figure out what it is.
If I knew, I would be like so happy all the time. I don't know, I'm trying to figure it out.
It's just so not my area of expertise.
I don't know.
These are such big questions.
Great questions that
I guess in thinking about it, it evokes confusion.
Sometimes I think it is one thing, and then I'm uncertain as to if it was that one thing or what exactly it is, and it's almost fleeting. And
happiness is two types of ice cream. Sometimes you get the one you don't like, but it's still ice cream and it's still nice to have it.
What is happiness? What is happiness? What is it?
Happiness is universal.
Happiness is having no regrets.
Sometimes it's just being content with what you have and who you are. I think that's extremely important for individual happiness.
I think that happiness is a sensation of feeling embraced and loved and nourished and nurtured.
Happiness is feeling within and without, loving and loved and whole.
I think happiness to me is like when I feel like really solid in myself. Like when I have a strong sense of myself in that moment, but also I'm really curious. It's like, I think happiness to me is this like thing between like groundedness and like receptivity. And it's like kind of being able to do both in one moment. And like that's really happy to me. Like that gives me a lot of happiness.
Happiness is that tingly feeling that takes over your whole body and makes you want to jump and squeal.
Do you think it's possible to make other people happy?
You know, I was talking about that with someone this morning because I have this person in my life that I feel a lot of joy when I talk to them. But they're not the one that's providing me with happiness. It's the situation that's providing me happiness and like the way that I'm interpreting it and receiving it. So I think that you can be you, and depending on who that person is and where they are in their life, they can receive that happiness and that joy. But it's definitely a self journey. You can't make someone happy. Keep going?
Yeah, that's what you were going to say.
I'm making you happy. It doesn't work like that. That's what I got.
Have you ever tried to do that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I would think that every one of us has been in the position where we've tried to make someone fundamentally happy. And I think that's a loser's game. I don't think you can do that forever, but yeah, episodically I think it's a worthy thing to do.
I think that we can really influence other people's lives with kindness and with gentleness and fun and silliness, and that also individually it is our own responsibility to choose whether we are happy or not. But that we completely do influence each other, and that I'm so grateful when my friends treat me in that way or when a stranger treats me kindly, and that it does influence my choice, but that ultimately it comes from within.
Do you think happiness comes from within, or do you think it comes from without?
Well, I think yes. I think it comes from both of those. I think that I think ultimately happiness comes from inside any person, but it doesn't come just from there. It comes from inside a person, reaching out and connecting with the insides of other people. And I guess part of my deep belief is that not just people are involved in it. So it's reaching from the inside and reaching out and connecting with other presences in the world, other forms of life, other mountain ranges, you know, whatever. It's different things for different people. But so I think that the dichotomy between what is inside and what is outside is ultimately somewhat of a false one.
Do you think, you said earlier that happiness is a choice, and I was curious about that. So can you talk more about happiness being a choice? And have you ever actually chosen to be happy?
I totally have. I know sometimes I've been so upset that I just feel so inseparable from my upsetness, and then there's a part of me that's like, you know, here's this good thing about this, or this isn't quite so bad, but there's this part of me that almost like I just want to be upset because I just want to just be completely upset. And I think it takes a willingness in myself to see, oh, maybe I don't have to be so upset, or maybe here's this good thing, and maybe I can allow myself to feel that. And then sometimes there are other people that remind us of that, and I think that's a blessing of having friends and family that love us, that say, hey, you know, here's some happiness. Or maybe they even completely catch us off guard and just make us laugh and remind us that even though our troubles feel like they're the end of the world, that maybe they might not be.
That's such a wonderful answer. I totally get it. I want to be so upset.
I break the socks.
And I like it.
And I secretly love it. Yeah, I noticed that. It's like we like that drama of like really being immersed in our awful experience. And so I've seen this actually a lot in my relationships, is like it's like you want to feel that way right now. It's like you're not gonna not feel that way unless you choose to not feel that way, and that takes choice, but it can be hard. We can be stubborn.
Yeah, so do you have examples when you feel like you've actually overcome and you've chosen to be happy?
Yeah, plenty.
Do you have one that you want to share?
Well, there was the first time that it ever happened for me was I was hiking up a very steep trail in Big Bend National Park. And as I started up that part of the Dodson Trail, I remember thinking, this is horrible. This is just as awful as I thought it would be. It was bushwhacking through these emery oak, and the sun was just beating down on me, the morning sun, the early morning desert sun. And something clicked for me at some point. I was thinking about a good friend who I had hiked the trail with in the past. And I remember what Rosie had said at some other time, not on the trail, about making choices to be happy. And I thought, well, this would be a great opportunity to prove her wrong. This is the worst possible conditions. This is like, for me, it's just this awful situation. And I said, I'll try it. I'm going to try what it's like to make a choice to be happy, to make a choice to enjoy this. And it worked. It worked that time. And it was fantastic. It was like this whole new world opened up for me.
This is really, really simple. And I think that Bob Marley, as cheesy as he was, you know, really held it. And my dad would just look at me and say, don't worry, be happy. You know, and it's just so true and dear to my heart, because it is the worry. It is when the mind, that it gets in the way, that's what distracts us from our natural place of happiness. Don't worry, you know, when we're stressed out, it actually decreases and depletes our immune system function. Worrying, anxiety, stressing out about worrying and anxiety, that makes us sick. When we just let go and just exist in that knowing that we are meant to be happy as individuals, then life can be so blissful. And it is so blissful without worry.
I think we get happiness through being fully in the present.
Almost think about it as that there's always that everlasting happiness, that total divine, that total bliss every time in front of you. And all you have to do is entice it. Entice it by just being present. We're so focused on things that don't exist, meaning the future. The past doesn't exist anymore. It's not here. It's not now. You know, you might be so ready to, well, I got to do something, right? I got to go somewhere, do something, do this thing. What if I told you you just had to wait? right here in this moment and just be in your moment. And that you can take that everywhere you are, right? A walking meditation. You're at work, doesn't matter. It's just a matter of perception. You could be shoveling shit for a living, and you can still choose to be in that moment, to be in that now, to be in that sunset. That's what my father said to me before I left for college. He said, Matthew, even if you were shoveling shit for a living, love it. 4 years later, I was on a farm, shoveling shit for a living. And I remember the feeling because I was laughing so hard, just thinking about it. I was laughing so hard because I was literally shoveling shit for a living. And the wind would blow, and I don't know why, I just put down my shovel for a second, and I just felt the wind. And in that moment, I knew that I can literally choose to be happy no matter what I'm doing. People allow life to define where their happiness should come from, and that's a beautiful illusion, in my opinion. Because if I told you that you could choose it from every moment and that every moment is yours, would you take it? And then if I said that to you and you believed it, would you be responsible enough to take a hold of that for the rest of your life and realize that now you can't put any blame on anything, on why you're not happy except for yourself? Then what would happen? Then that's when it gets interesting. When you literally can't put in, I can't. Knowing what I see now, I am not allowed to do that. I mean, I can, but it'd be a joke because I know better. It's I can choose it at every single moment, just to have fun and be in bliss. And every moment is yours. Just look.
And what makes you happy?
Things that don't make sense really make me happy. Like really make me happy.
And just spending time with people in general, just like hanging out with friends at the Raven or people taking me out for my birthday. And it's just like an elated feeling just because you figure out people really care about you.
I think when I experience happiness, I feel like I'm in the right place and I'm doing the right thing. And it comes, like time just kind of passes really easily, whether if I'm doing a project that I'm really excited about or having a great conversation or on a really great hike, the time just kind of goes away and I could be doing that thing for hours and feel like it's been minutes. And just kind of having the gut feeling of this is the place where I'm supposed to be right now and I'm in the right place at the right time.
There's things that I do that are more circumstantial, like ride my bicycle or dance or sing, work in my garden, beautify my home, hang out with a dear friend, make love, all of those good life things. But I realize that those are, you know, if I'm going to engage in circumstantial happiness, I also have to engage in circumstantial unhappiness. Because there's gonna, you know, like the moments, you know, I'm gonna have to get off my bike and do something that maybe doesn't make me quite as happy. So I accept that there's gonna be that up and down. But if I really, in it all, I'm cultivating, I would say that I definitely am cultivating a more true happiness that's just based on how I engage my mind with the moment.
Do you think that there is like a happiness that's everlasting that we can achieve or attain? Or do you think that happiness is just in like the ups and downs of daily life?
Again, happiness I think is definitely a state of mind, it's a choice. So you can definitely choose to be happy 100% of the time, but there are circumstances where it's more difficult to choose that happiness, and the weight of the circumstances kind of just like barrel over you. But I guess if you're like really on point and like super badass and like some like crazy yogi and all that stuff, you could probably be happy all the time because you're just always conscious in your conscious mind, so you can choose that. But we always go back to subroutines and subconscious programs, so it's really difficult.
If you're not a realized being, which I'm not, I think that we still go through the ups and downs of life, and that we categorize things as good and bad, which then makes us either happy or unhappy. When we are no longer attached to these things happening that make us happy and these things happening that make us sad, that when we're really basically in a state of, not detachment, but in a state of bliss, it's really irrelevant because nothing out there can really change that, you know. And some of that, I think, has to do with the judgments that we make about the good and the bad, you know, which then, of course, correlates to feeling sad or feeling happy.
When I think about what makes me happy, that's easy. What makes me happy is like a long mountain bike ride, hitting a huge wave in the Grand Canyon, a satisfying yoga practice, a great evening with my best friends. That's easy, like what makes me happy. And where it gets more complicated for me is when I think about what makes me unhappy. That's more emotional. And it's also very fluctuating. And I think about the things that make me unhappy are probably what make most of us unhappy, but it's that mindset that we get in where we compare ourselves and doubt ourselves, and we're jealous, and we're, you know, just really feeling a lack of self-worth and insecurity. And so it feels like the crux between sort of the happiness, unhappiness piece is so much about perception and whether we're perceiving ourselves from this sort of surface level of comparing, of our minds overthinking everything we do, or are we tuning in and paying attention to what's seated here in terms of, you know, how we really perceive ourselves. Because you can spend a lot of time perceiving yourselves like in comparison to everything else, and that's exhausting. So, you know, happiness seems like you really kind of got to work at it. And it's not something that just is affected by whether or not you had a good day. But that makes a big difference. But what is it that makes a good day versus a bad day? What is it that, you know, you're up, you're down, you know, you're smiling, you're crying? What is the difference there? And I think a lot of times that is that level of perception that's really more oriented towards your overthinking.
I guess I would say that, you know, like I mentioned at the beginning, was like happiness to me really means like having no regrets. Like not wishing for a different life, not wishing for different circumstances, but being settled, grounded in who I am and the choices that I'm making, and knowing that there are constantly decisions that are being made that can be really challenging. But I think, you know, that word peace is a sweet one. Just being at peace with and content with life.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this concept of happiness ever since you were in my office a week or two ago and put out the idea of talking about happiness as a topic. And what I've come to realize is that it's tricky business, this idea of happiness. And asking yourself, am I truly happy, is not a very straightforward idea. And it's easy for me to say that I have every reason to be happy, and I have a lot of wonderful aspects of my life. You know, I'm healthy, that's number one. I have a great family. I have so many wonderful friends. I get to spend time in nature. I have a job that I love, and I have every reason to be happy. And You know, when you ask though, am I happy? It's not as straightforward.
I know many, many people who are living in luxury. There's no possible way that their needs at almost any level can be unsatisfied, and yet they're perpetually unhappy.
That's what we generally believe, is that everyone has to have the same amount of material to be happy. And that is actually the logic that fuels the disbursement of like material resources or something. So, I don't know. And that system can never give the same amount of material to everyone. So even if you want to look at it in that like very logical sense of the word, like if you can only be happy from certain circumstances, then not everyone can be happy in the world. Like that would be the following like conclusion. And I guess I maybe believe that everyone can be happy. And yeah, I definitely believe that's possible.
What are the keys to happiness?
Is this a philosophy course? These are the great questions, right? Perspective, I think, is one. I think when you get, at least for me, when I have a perspective of time, it gives a perspective of perspective. And so way back in my 20s, I read a series of, at least the first books of Carlos Castaneda's books and his travels with Don Juan, and Don Juan always said, you know, death is on your right shoulder, and that as long as you recognize that death is always there, life has more meaning. And I think that's kind of basically it. You know, recognize every day I feel blessed to wake up and to move into the world.
I just feel like it's we all would like to be confirmed in some way that our lives are meaningful and that we're having a connection with others and also making a difference in the world. And I think teaching has given me that opportunity. Another moment that comes to mind was when I was also teaching in Kino, and we had spent an amazing day out at sea in Apanga, and we were coming back from San Esteban to Tiburon, and our panga got ahead of the others, and we got this radio call that we needed to come back, and we didn't know if there was a problem, but we were far enough away from the other panga where we could just see them in the distance, and so we turned around and came back, and it was one of those moments where the sun was just about to set, the sea was golden, absolutely still, and there were glints of light coming up all around the panga. And as we got closer, I realized that their boat was sitting over a school of Pacific manta rays, mebulas, which are the smaller ones, but they were jumping out of the water and doing flips and just amazing kinds of acrobatics. And I remembered when I'd seen this before, I'd heard the scientific explanation that they're probably doing some sexual thing or trying to get rid of parasites or something like that. And I remember asking a Mexican fisherman why he thought they did it. And without even thinking, he said, for the joy. And then as we got closer to the panga, there wasn't anybody in the boat. They had all gotten out and they were snorkeling with thousands of mebulas, and they were just feeding on plankton right below the surface. And there was this one student, Dan Biglia, who had been underneath, and I went down and I saw the whole school myself, and suddenly I was in a totally different society of beings, and they were all lifting their wings in rhythmic, almost at the same time, black on top, white on the bottom, and it was like I'm in a whole different reality, and I am not scared. I am part of something bigger than me. And I came up to the surface and I heard Dan giving out the most incredible laugh of exultation that I've ever heard. And I thought in that laughter he captured something that I had felt and experienced, which is pure, unadulterated joy. And the postscript to this is that about 6 years ago, he was attacked and mauled by a grizzly bear in Alaska, and he was the most severely mauled person to ever survive. And I talked to him in the hospital, and he said, "Doug, the last thing I remember seeing was the bear's mouth coming down on my face." And he lost both of his eyes. And he said, "I will always value that moment I spent with you down in Keno because I can visualize that." And he's such a positive student that he overcame this terrible event in his life and went on to get his master's in child services, got a straight A average, got married, has had 2 children, has written a book about his experience, and was named Alaska Man of the Year for people with disabilities. And I feel so privileged to have known him, and to have shared with him an experience that was an experience of joy, and that I know that I helped create that moment that for him will always be significant too. And if I can do that as a teacher, then I feel like I'm succeeding. And a lot of it is not my ability as a teacher. It's being sensitive for those moments when something profound can happen, and trying to integrate that into the experience.
So beautiful. If you had 10 seconds to live.
Duh!
Yeah. 10
Yeah.
seconds to live. You're about to die.
Yeah.
And you're offered the opportunity to relive a moment of your life.
Oh.
What moment would you relive?
Oh my gosh. That's so. Oh, Marielle. I wasn't expecting that one. Oh, now I'm crying. Okay. Yeah. I think the first thing that came to my head was I think I'd go back to when I was 4 years old with my brother on this porch here. We got our hair cut by my mom one day. We was on the porch, and yeah. With her, yeah. I don't know what I can answer. Oh gosh. Oh.
So good.
Yeah, it would be with my brother. I have no clue. You know, it's one of those weird things where there are pictures of us on this one day, and I feel like I remember it, but it's almost like the picture is so much power that I was so young, but I just remember like we had our arms around each other, and it's like I didn't even know what I had.
Aww.
I just had this feeling of love. That's what it was. It's really innocent and young.
Oh, so sweet.
Whoa, Ariel. Oh gosh. Okay.
He's just whoa.
Yeah, thanks.
Right to it.
Not ready for that.
I actually suffer from depression, so happiness means a lot to me. And once I found some good medication, I think I have a very grateful knowing that happiness comes at a price sometimes. I often intertwine happiness with gratefulness, I think.
I think because I don't want it to just come across that it's just been a beautiful walk through the woods, that there are deeply troubling things that can happen to us that can really test us. And I certainly know depression. I certainly know the darkness and the monsters that are out there. And I think one of the greatest lessons I've learned is when those moments come up and you feel paralyzed in fear and darkness, breathe.
But I think it's also okay not to be happy, too. And I think that has made me happy to understand that. You know what I mean? I think it's okay, like, sometimes be like, yeah, life's really hard right now. But that's also not, like, an allowance to, like, wallow. But I think that there is, like, something to be said of like, accepting, like, hardship and, like, I don't know, being gentle with yourself in those processes. Yeah, and, like, I think that in turn can promote happiness in those really hard times, if that makes sense.
I've been really blessed. I feel like my life has been filled with joy and happiness and sorrow, and that I've been able to really feel it all.
Just to know that even in hard circumstances don't last very long, and we're always going to have ups and downs. But the beauty of life is the fact that you live to be a human being, and being a human being unfortunately means living through ups and downs. So even if you like graph out your life and see that, hey, you had ups and downs, but generally your life has been very satisfaction, full of love and happiness, then I think that's still a quality and happy life.
Everything's a sign. You're all like getting led down a path for particular experiences that you need in this life. It's all good. Everything's fine.
Well, I think happiness has a lot to do with your expectations of how you think life should be, or how you think you should be. And that's in terms of your abilities. That's in terms of whether in your worldview it's okay to make a mistake. So my advice would be to be very kind to yourself and look at yourself as if you were looking at a friend.
I think really work on trusting yourself. You are all that you need to be, just being you.
You are in charge of your happiness. Nobody else. Don't count on somebody else to make you happy, because you will be sad.
I would say don't be afraid of your power, don't hold back. It's not to say leave ganja willy-nilly into anything without thought, but I would say, you know, go after it. You know, don't hold back.
I would tell a child to go outside and play in the mud, and yeah, mud's a good one. I think that'll make anybody happy no matter what your age. So maybe that would be the first step to happiness for anybody, playing in a mud puddle. But I guess that's it.
The Dalai Lama quite often says that everybody just wants to be happy. All the beings of all kinds in all the worlds just want to be happy, and I think that's probably true.
My wife and I had this long argument, which is, we've got a number of them that are just intellectual, spiritual arguments that aren't necessarily hostile at all. She told me years ago when we were first married that the purpose of life is happiness. And my position was the purpose of life is to do something important and valuable and help people and so forth. So I don't know the two are exclusive, but it's been a running discussion. And I think I come around more and more to her position on everything, but particularly on that, you know. So. Women have power.
I want people to be happy. I think I think that life is such a, wonderful, wonderful thing. I mean, I have to say that, having a love affair with life is really a key to happiness, I think. Yeah.
Have you ever chosen to be happy? Do you have any?
All the time! I love happiness! I want to be happy. That's a choice I would love.
You know, we can walk through this life with our feet scuffed and our heads down and feeling grumpy and sad, and we can choose to, you know, accept the challenges that are come our way and look for happiness. And it just feels good. Feels like a nice way to live.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space. With the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Clap along if you know what happiness is.
Yes!
Clap along if you
Hi, my name's Hayden.
Yes. There's so many different happiness. Yes!
Happiness, or do you feel like...
No. That's great. Theoretically,
Is there?
You're an ex...
I should probably warn you, I'll be just fine. No offense to you, it's your time. Here's why. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. If you know what happiness is.
One of the things that's evident is how people's sort of jubilance does feed off of each other's.
Yes.
Yeah, so it seems like a pretty appropriate project for you. I'm glad you've taken this on.
Wonderful.
I love laughing. I think laughter is a beautiful thing. And I definitely like laughing by myself, and I do that sometimes. But I think it's more fun to share it with others usually.